I do a lot of traveling. And I was traveling on Southwest Airlines, and I say that only because they have the seating where you can do your own thing.
Right.
And I was sitting by the window, and there are 3 seats. A lady came on, and she brought her mom. Turned out it was her mom and her dad. And she brought them in, and he sat in the front because he was quite debilitated in many ways, dementia being one of them. And her mom, they sat with me. Now, you know how you're sitting on top of someone trying to act like you're not listening. All right. So I'm sitting there, and I get the gist of what's going on. She's moving her folks from Nashville, Tennessee, to Houston, where she's putting them in an assisted living building close to her. Maybe sometime we can get together and talk about that dilemma. But at any rate, we're not here for that today. And they didn't want to go. And she's literally shaking. She's so nervous about this, the daughter is. And she's trying to work with her mom, and she's going, well, there's a lot of nice stores where I live. And her mother's going, I mean, she wasn't happy. Mom didn't have dementia. She was mad. So we fly. Flying, we're 10 minutes out of Houston. And the lady has calmed down. She reaches over, touches my hand, and says, what do you do for a living?
Oh, boy.
And I told her, and I thought she was going to break my hand. She took such a hard hold and said, please tell me what to do. And I said, okay. But I said, I have to ask you a question first. Tell me about your dad, and I don't want to know anything about him medically. I want to know who he is. And she said, well, he used to train racehorses. He used to, the big boys, the Preakness, the Belmont, the Derby. Big horses. And I said, okay, that's good. That's enough. And I said, well, and this is one of the things I talk about a lot in my book. And I said to her, I'm going to tell you a couple of things not to say. She said, all right. And I said, number one, I'm going to teach you to not say the word no. And she said, well, now that's just ridiculous. I said, okay, tell me the problem. She said, we're going to be living in Houston. My dad's barn is back in Nashville. We'll stay in Nashville. And what am I going to say to him when he says to me, let's go to the barn? I got to say, no, Dad, your barn's in Nashville. I said, okay, here's what we're going to learn. We're going to look at it like this. A thought about his barn just went zooking through his head. Take him there. Take him there mentally. Now, you and I both know that, or maybe we don't both know. Well, I'm going to share this with you. Someone with memory loss, if you can keep them happy, they will forget where they're heading in a maximum of 5 minutes. Now, is this cut and dried? No. None of this is cut and dried. We're human beings. But in the main, 5 minutes. If you make them angry, they will be angry at least until they go to bed. Okay? And then they also have the negative feelings when they see you the next day, and you'll get some behaviors, and they don't even understand where they're coming from. All right. So our goal is to take him to the barn in his head, talk about the barn, and see if we can use up those 5 minutes pleasantly. So I said, what you want to do is take a little time. Hang on, I gave it, but no paper and pad here. Just a minute. Let me get this. All right. Now, when we get to the barn, Dad, what kind of feed are we feeding these days? I said, you know the lingo. I don't know the lingo. Is that still working pretty good? I mean, how many barrels do we bring? What did you say? I have to shine the tack. Dad, I don't like shining the tack. The whole thing? Oh, hey, when we get to the barn, Dad, I was thinking, which is the other name of my book, obviously. I was thinking, could you get those pictures of Thunder Thighs? You know, that one horse you had that was so good? What a beautiful animal. And let's visit, in our minds, let's visit Thunder Thighs. And you're using up time. And if he jumps on Thunder Thighs, if he jumps on the feed, if he jumps on the tack, go with it. Go with it. Because it's one of the memories he's having of the barn. Alrighty. I said, please don't make me muck out the stables. Whatever. You know the lingo. And your goal is we're going to fill these 5 minutes with pleasure, and he will leave you instead of fighting. No, you live in, no, I don't. I live in Nashville. No, you live in Houston. No, you live in Nashville. We moved you over here 4 months ago. Don't you remember you and Mom now live on Hazel Street, not on the ranch? No, we live on and it all starts. Okay? And it all starts.
And just look at how the frustration on all parties, for all parties.
Truly.
Because I can't believe anybody who sits there and argues with their loved one that is having the cognitive loss, that you go home feeling good about what well, I finally got it in his head that we live in, Houston. Do you really feel good about that?
No.
I bet you feel horrible.
I felt terrible because I say the word beat on her. I mean emotionally. I would beat on her until she would go, okay. And I go, see, that's fine. I knew it wasn't fine. Every time she lived in California, and the end of the conversation, I would be miserable. And here's the second thing that happens to us. What I would say to myself is, I am going to change the air in the tires before I call her back. Because it's so uncomfortable. I see that happening all the time. I don't go visit. I don't stop over. I don't call because what if this all starts again? And I've got too much to do. I'm very busy, you know. I can't possibly. I'd love to see her. You know that I would, but I just can't. And it's a defense mechanism. I'm not putting folks down for it. It's a defense mechanism to try to cover up the hurt, but it doesn't work very well.
Yeah.
Okay. When I finally got smart, and we can talk about this a little later on, when I finally got smart and began to listen to myself as I worked with my mom and look at the things that I believe, we had marvelous conversations about lots and lots of things, and we'll talk about how do we get those conversation starters.
Yeah, because this book,
we roll
again,
along.
We want people to know. I was thinking, is the title of the book, Unlocking the Door to Successful Conversations with Loved Ones with Cognitive Loss by Diana Waugh, and her last name is spelled W-A-U-G-H. I love the fact that it's a relatively small book. I think it's only
56 pages,
okay.
I think.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say under 100 pages, but it's a workbook as well, and I think it's a great tool. I think it really...
Thank you.
I wanted people to hear about this because it's just, I don't know, I guess my dream for your book, and thank you for writing it, first of all, is for all of us to have this in our hands before we come to this in our life, if we're so lucky. You were not, and you were the one writing it and living the other way, but what a beautiful gift and tribute to your mother to have now written this so other people can maybe do it a little bit differently.
Yeah,
right?
And many times some of the best things that come out come from not such a swell experience for the person. Sure. One of the interesting things is I have people who buy the book and fill it out. It's literally pages of lines. And we'll talk about what goes on those lines. But people fill it out and say, I'm filling this out. I'm going to give one to each of my children so they know what I love to talk about when and if I have problems. One gentleman called and he ordered the book. And he said, I'm giving it to my kids about me. It's about me. He said, my brother-in-law has a wife who has dementia. I'm not giving it to him. I said, okay. Send him the one book. He calls 2 days later and went, all right, send me the one for my brother-in-law. But he said, I'm serious. I'm filling this out and I'm giving it to the kids so that I can help them.
By you writing this, Diana, did it help free you up too? I mean...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Because... unless you really meant to make the mistake, you really wish you could fix it, and you can't. But what can you do down the road that would maybe help others?
Let's talk about the very can be very critical verbiage, and that would be don't you remember, and how that makes a person feel, and how you can change that. You just talked a bit about it, take them to where they want to go, but talk about what that does to a person.
Think about it today. Do you remember is such a common phrase that we all use. And I'm not sure every time we're expecting a total answer. But when the person has dementia, we want to see that they do. So it's very, not vindictive, but it's very challenging to the person. And I wonder sometimes when we say it, if it isn't, I'm going to prove to myself they're okay. I'm going to prove to myself they're okay. I'm just going to help them a little bit here. But let's kind of play a little game. When I came in here today, was the first time I'd met you. But what if I would have said to you, Joan, I remember meeting you. I think we were at a meeting. Do you remember? I think we met. It was about 2 years ago. And you would say, gee, Diane, I'm not sure. And I'll go, yeah, and by this time I'm poking on you. Come on, Joan. You remember meeting me. You do now. We sat together. And about that time you would say, you'd do one of two things. You would have said, no, yes, I suppose we did. You would have lied. You would have lied right out loud, and you don't have memory loss. Now, why wouldn't you have said to me, Diana, stop with the do you remember? I don't remember you. You never met me. Stop. Because it's not socially acceptable. Okay? So you would have lied, and then you would have probably said to me, excuse me, I have to go to the restroom. And you would have gotten away from me. Alrighty? 2 defense mechanisms we use today. How many times have you gone to the store, you walk around the end cap, and someone goes, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you for years. Oh, listen, how are the kids? Mine are great. You want to see the grandkids? Here they are. They are so cute, you know. Have 7 of them. Oh, they're just all I got this little baby. And they're showing you all these pictures, and you're smiling. Right. And they walk away, and you go, who in the world was that? Why didn't you say to them, I don't know you, stop showing me those pictures, or give me your name or something? Because socially, alrighty. So what happens when you have dementia and I start the do you remember, do you remember, do you remember? You're going to try to say,
up.
Well, you're going to try to save face without hurting me, without going, you're like out of it, lady. You've got the wrong person here. And I believe by the time you get to the end of the word remember, the person with dementia is already shaking inside because I'm having trouble remembering things, and now she's asking me this question. I'm fairly sure I'm going to flunk this, and when their stress goes up, their ability to manage their situation goes down. So maybe even if I could have remembered, now I can't remember at all because I'm so nervous. And I laugh and say, if I just switch it up, if I would have come in today and went, hey, Joan, I think I met you, and you'd have said, boy, I'm not sure. I said, oh, I was thinking I did. It changes who owns that story.
It does.
That first story was yours. I'm on your shoulders going, do you remember me? The second one, it's on my shoulders.
Right.
It's the same end of the story.
Right.
It's,
and
I
just
think
done
I know.
In a more respectful way, too.
Yeah.
I love how you say follow them to where that you want to go. I'm at a nursing home.